friendly neighborhood nerds. This is Judah Radd. I'm here with Robo Strange, and joining us is a man who needs no introduction, but I'll do a quick one anyway. Known online as the Comicstorian, Benny Potter is an American YouTuber, comic nerd, and the co-founder of the award-winning Weekly Pull podcast. With his fabulous voice, he narrates comic books and explains origins. He also hosts Eligible Monster Gaming blog channel. Recently, he's transcended from narrating to creating with the recent Bloodshot number 12, where he contributed a 4-page story illustrated by the magnificent Juan Jose Rib. Hey, Benny, what's it like living the dream?
I mean, fun. I don't know really what to say to that. I was a guy that got out of the army and expected to just be sitting on my own couch playing video games all day, and just got bored and decided to start talking about comics. So I know it's 8 years later, but to this day, I'm still just the guy sitting on the couch playing video games. So whenever anyone's like brings that up, I'm like, I mean, it's cool. I like it.
When he says the dream, like that is literal. Usually people go like the dream, and which is like any level of success, but yours is literally the dream. I want to get out, play video games, talk about comics, and then become extremely successful doing it. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. So what struck me most about this Bloodshot story is that you're basically doing what you do best, but in comic book form. You kind of provide like a concise history of Bloodshot, covering his origins through like Harbinger Wars and the Valiant, and then up to like the Jeff Lemire and run on the character. I swear I could hear you like narrating it as I was reading. How did it happen?
So basically, we're back in like 2016, 2017. Comicstorian was doing really well, and I was like, "What's next?" Because I mean, just like every other YouTuber, I'm like, it can't last forever. I have to have a secondary plan. So I was looking at other ideas, getting into actual voice acting, getting into writing comic books, looking at just more investment style stuff, and I brought up doing comic books to the old crew over at Valiant. I was like, hey, I'm interested, but what I don't want to do is start committing to a whole bunch of stuff. And then I'm ruining because I want to let Comicstorian go as far as it's going to go. Like I have no intentions of stopping this. So until someone yells at me, I'm just going to keep going. So I didn't want to overcommit. And they were like, well, if you want to test the waters, why don't you try a backup? You could do what you do, which is narrate the history of the character, but try and do it in a comic book format. And we can get you hooked up with Rip, and you can get some great art going and get a good portrayal of what you're trying to do. So we started working on it, and I took like 2 weeks off of Comicstorian. I made a video, like it's a top secret project, guys. Like I'm working on it. I'm so excited, but you'll be excited too. And we just kept going back and forth like 2-3 weeks, and then it just kind of fell off the radar. Like I didn't hear anything about it, and it was supposed to come out on Free Comic Book Day, like 2018. Well, that's around the time that the Valiant changed hands. Like the whole entire staff swapped over. They didn't know what they were doing, and my comic fell in the cracks. And since I do work on Comicstorian full time and I do all that stuff and all the additional podcasting, it was one of those situations of like, oh, well, if this is the comic book industry where you can create stuff and it never gets published, I don't want to do this. Like, I like having the ability to control my creativity. And if I like it, I release it. I don't wait for someone else to do it. So I just kind of let it die. And that was the end of it. And just took it as a fun experiment, not for me. We get to like 2019, 2020, and I'm testing out different stuff on YouTube, different things that will get some views and stuff like that. And ranting was the big thing. Everyone's like, oh, we want to see you rant more about comics and the ones you hate, which I actually don't like doing because I don't read the ones I hate, which makes it very difficult to rant about something if you're like, I got to page 1 and it's garbage. Like,
that's right, yeah. On the backside, you have to read it. You're like, I hate it, but I have to read it because now I have to rant about it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I had to rant about it. So I was looking for other things to rant about. Well, I didn't like this episode of this TV show and things like that. And I thought it'd be fun to make an episode. If we had no idea, I'll just talk about the comic I wrote. But I figured since I was locked under NDAs, I'm going to need some kind of permission. So my plan was to email the current Valiant and then just do the video. I expected no response, but at least I could say, if anything came out of this, no, I emailed and you guys didn't respond, you know?
That's right.
But they responded, very confused.
Who was it? Was it Lisa that you emailed?
No, it was Greg. I was talking to Greg at the time because Greg had reached out to me at Denver Comic Con. I was going to Denver Comic Con in, I'd say about 2018, 2019. I just got really tired of everyone hitting me up for different companies. So I kind of ghosted every independent company outside of DC and Marvel, and even DC and Marvel I was ghosting at that time, because everyone would just send me, my inbox is just full of so many PDFs that I was just getting like, I just need to focus the channel. I can't do everyone's books, and I'm too nice to say no. So my answer was ghost everyone. Make myself difficult to get a hold of. But Greg wouldn't leave me alone, so I eventually had to meet up with Greg, and I met him, and we got to know each other a little bit better, and that's why I asked him. And so he eventually hit me up, and he hit me back up, and he's like, "Hey, let me talk to some people. I'll get back to you." And I'm like, "Great." So this is gonna take like 4 months of me waiting for a response that I can't do it. Cool. And I just kind of forgot about it till he called me, and he's like, "What if we were to publish it? Would you be okay with that?" And I'm like, why would I say no? Yes, publish the book.
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, let me call my guy. We go talk
Right.
to somebody else for 3 months.
That's awesome.
So yeah, obviously we got to where we are now. We're a few months later. They got it published officially at issue 12. They wanted to use it as a jumping off point for anyone who wrapped up the story, so you could jump in at the end of that run and kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I was super excited about it. Yeah, now I got a published comic book, which has now reignited my love. So I'm trying to get pitches out there, see what I can do. So
there you go. There you go. So what would you say is your favorite run of this character?
Actually, I liked Bloodshot Island.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Because it was so, at the time it came out, I was getting really annoyed with characters like in DC and Marvel, where they would kind of restart the character.
Is that Christos Gage?
I believe so. I'll just Google that real fast. But I was getting really tired of characters in DC and Marvel, because like Damian, every 3 years, he's back to being 11 and hates everyone and doesn't know any lessons that he's learned.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when Bloodshot Island came out, I was actually against it, because I'm like, oh, we're doing that with Bloodshot. He's restarting, and we're getting rid of Kate and everyone else that no one's attached to this anymore.
That's right.
And then to find out it was Deathmate and the Project Rising Spirit and everything was all great. I was all excited about it. So I think just because I wasn't expecting it, I loved that run the most. And was Jeff Lemire. Jeff Lemire did that one.
Jeff Lemire. Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a hard question for you. I don't know if you're legally obligated to answer one way or another, but did you like the movie?
I have not actually seen the movie.
No, okay.
But if Valiant
asked,
That's a safe answer.
I
Nice.
loved it.
I loved it. I actually did like the movie.
The movie came out right at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was like, and I got a bunch of text messages, "Hey, go see it. Hey, go see it." And I didn't go to the theater because it was the very beginning of the pandemic, and then it came to digital, and I just never got around to it.
Yeah. It's a love it or hate it thing. I haven't really met a lot of people who are like, oh, sure, whatever. It's either like they ruined it or I loved it. I loved it, but I'm easy. Like if you have superpowers in a movie, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna love it. So
I mean, I most likely will like it. I'm a guy that likes the Transformers movies, and I even liked the recent Mortal Kombat. So I doubt
You're 100%.
Yeah, there you go.
You're totally gonna love Bloodshot then.
That's what I mean. I'm
Absolutely.
the demographic of like just
Yeah.
make things explode. I'm on board.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. So you were talking about pitches. Are there any plans for you to do more comic book writing? And as a follow-up, what if you had the choice to write any character you wanted? Who to be?
Oh, any character I can tell you right now. My goal is to someday get DC to let me write Red Hood. If I could write Red
nice.
Hood, that's what I would love to do. But I don't know where to go next is actually it, because this wasn't what I was planning. When this came out, I was in the middle of a move. So it's not like I was planning, okay, this is going to launch my writing career. This technically was dead for me 3 years ago. So when this came out, I was like, I'm looking at the other options, and I got a lot of friends in the industry who were like, hey, I could hook you up with this person. I could hook you up with that person. But none of it's really coming through. It's like a lot of like, I don't have pitches fully ready. So I'm not 100% where to go next. I've gotten a few offers that if I have something, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But then it comes down to, well, what do I have? I have like a list of ideas, but I read like 80 comics a week. So who knows where any of that came from. And
Sure. Does any of this energy translate to your YouTube channel, to Comicstorian? Like, is there any way you guys could like meld some of that kind of stuff?
What do you mean, like the writing the stuff?
Like as far as like, will we see like a focus or any kind of shift in focus on the channel to like Valiant stuff or any of that kind of deal?
Well, so the issue with that actually is the reason I don't do much Valiant, I don't do much indie, or at least I haven't been. We recently just found a way to loop it back in. Is the way the YouTube algorithm works. If one video does poorly, you need to have a good video to balance it out. And so it became too dodgy to try and do anything that didn't say Batman or Spider-Man on it.
That's right.
Yeah. Like I have an audience that'll watch Deadpool, they'll watch Batman, they won't watch Superman. So like it became a game of like, what will they watch? What I've recently done is kind of shifted over to doing what I call the compilation videos. We do one on Friday for DC and one on Saturday for Marvel, where I just grab like 5 issues I enjoy. And we just read all 5, and I give you the recap, and we do the whole thing, and it creates this very long video. And then I've gotten super like, I don't know, greedy for my comic book love, because this has reignited quite a bit of love because I'm enjoying comics that I don't get to read normally. Like I just did a recording for Captain Marvel. My audience will never watch something that says Captain Marvel, but it's going to be in the video that says Carnage becomes Agent Carnage. So
there you go.
Got it.
Sometimes I forget there are people out there who actually pay bills doing this. So So
I have like a strategy for everything.
That's right.
So what I started doing now though is like I can do the latest Captain Marvel by just putting it in. So I get this 30-minute video. We got Carnage, we got Captain Marvel, we got the X-Men divisive run, and I'm putting Shadow Man at the end of that one. So like Shadow Man will get on the channel. I just did Nocterra by Scott Snyder. We did Nottingham by Mad Cat because
not a great book. Yeah. Oh man.
And that I realized like, well, if they're gonna watch the whole video and I can make it say Batman, I could put any story in this now.
Yeah, there you go. That's
the
good.
stuff
That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do, Robo. We got to start putting Batman in every single title.
Yeah, even if it's
starting with this one.
Yeah.
Starting with this one.
And Benny's here.
Yeah, Benny talks Batman and some other stuff.
I don't know if you guys are tracking it, but like on Infinite Frontier, this new directive, there's a Batman book every week. Every week I can get it to say Batman or Joker right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Awesome.
The Nottingham team was we interviewed them not too long ago. What a great book. I just wanted to say that.
I was actually surprised. It was funny because I was debating how to do the indie books. I was like, I need to get an indie book, but I need to have permission. I don't know if you guys know this, but Amazon's attacking people who want to do Invincible. So it's like I want to make sure I have proper permission.
Reviews? Even just reviews?
No, apparently if you show any page from any comic, they go,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't believe we've gotten away with this for so long. We just indiscriminately show pages when we.
I was told this through a grapevine, and they shut down a similar channel to mine for doing Invincible. Now I don't know if the guy gave away more, or he wasn't following the guidelines that I follow, or what the deal was. But I just know he got shut down. So because of that, that's another reason I get iffy on independent and other companies. So Mad Cave emailed me about something else, and I was like, I want to test this. Do you guys have a comic book you want me to read and potentially put on the channel? And they were like Nottingham. And so I get a lot of crap comics sent to me, and I'm not going to name names. I'm not that kind of guy, but I get a lot of crap comics sent to me. And I read that one and was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, right?
Like,
yes. Yeah.
I'm so happy they sent this to me.
That's awesome. All right. So you provide a necessary public service, right? Comic books, especially superhero comics. Me personally, you helped me out tremendously because like 4 or 5 years, this is an idea that we wanted to do this channel. And I hadn't really dug into comics since I was like 18, right? And so here I am like 20 years later, and Judah's like, this is the channel you need to go to. So he gives me a couple of channels. Yours is one of them. And so every day on the way to work, I'm listening, catching up to the stories. Like, what happened to Wolverine? I know he died, but so I'm listening to all your stuff. And so, but here's the thing, is that you get a lot of like retcons, crisis, secret whatevers, flashpoints, and pretty much anything that has Jonathan Hickman or Jeff Johns, right? That's really hard to keep up. Two-part question is, A, how do you do it? And then B, like, do you think that hero comic books should be more streamlined?
I think they should be more streamlined in the sense of, I like the idea of like the story of Deceased. It's one and done. Came out, we got a great story in that. You can say it counts, you can say it doesn't count. Killing Joke's another great example of that. You don't need to read anything supplemental. I'm a bigger fan of stories like that. That's why I'm a huge fan of what they're doing with Black Label. And I like the idea of doing What If, like Spider Shadow. I'm super excited to see where that's going to go. Or even those five-issue miniseries, so they just feel like that's all I got to read. I don't have to know anything.
Self-contained stories, but like everyone already knows the characters, but they don't have to like tell us who these characters are. But it's not connected to like other ongoing shit.
Exactly, and I prefer those because the reason I started Comicstorian is because I had the exact same problem you did. I was deployed at the time, and all I've been reading is Batman for the last 10 years. So like I didn't read Blackest Night, and I was deployed, and I'm like, well, what? I like Green Lantern, I like the concept. What is this Blackest Night? And I just started ordering trades, and they were all out of order, and I didn't know what was going on. Over here, somebody's a zombie. Over here, I'm in some Yellow Lantern war, and this is just the Red Lanterns. Where do they come back? I want to read more of these guys.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So
you should have looked up Comicstorian. He's great at catching you up.
So I came back from deployment though, and my wife didn't like the idea of me deploying. She just didn't like it at all. So she was trying to find some other kind of job we could do, and she's not from America, so she couldn't work. She's from France, so they wouldn't let her work, and we're having issues with the visa. So she discovered YouTube as a fun way to like just do stuff. And what she started doing was we started doing normal Let's Plays everyone did back in like 09, 2010 timeframe.
Yeah.
And they announced the new Metal Gear game, Phantom Pain. And so, it'd be cool. I know a crap ton of Metal Gear lore. Let me make a video explaining that. And so I made the very first complete story, and it was just me doing each individual Metal Gear game.
Yeah.
And so after I got out of the army, I was just making these video game complete stories, and I wanted to double down and do more because I had nothing else to do with my time. And my wife was like, no, what we're doing works. Leave it alone. And so I made the comic book thing, and that's when that started, because I was like, well, I like comic books, and catching up is hell. So it's just insane trying to figure out where everything goes. Why don't I just start telling the complete story of some of my favorite runs? And at the beginning, that was simple. Here's Flashpoint and New 52. We're good. And now I have like 80 playlists. Half of them have the same videos in them. Like, just here's the order you got to go through.
That's dope.
Got it.
That's good. That's good stuff.
So what, as a subject matter expert, what are 3 superhero events that you think everybody should read?
Batman No Man's Land is always on my list.
Hell.
Just because it shows what a series, for me, Batman's No Man's Land has a great core story, but it shows how tie-ins should be. They're directly related to No Man's Land. At no point in No Man's Land are you reading some story about somebody on the other side of the world who just makes a comment about Gotham.
Right.
Which is like, we just had King in Black, and half of those was like, symbiote dragon, what's going on over here? Like,
yeah.
My favorite was like Ghost Rider. He's like in the middle of the story that got canceled. He's riding around with Mephisto, and like they're like, oh, look, a symbiote. Well, let's go over there now and see what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
Boom. It's a tie-in.
yeah, exactly. So I always say Batman No Man's Land. If you want to see what an event should be, that the book's got so many tie-ins, but they all relate to how everyone is reacting to No Man's Land and being in No Man's Land. Blackest Night is another one for me because it shows like DC's attempt at doing that big, sprawling, all over the place kind of a thing.
Sure.
And Secret Wars, the recent one, I actually loved, and I think it's a great way to do tie-ins that are related but not.
But you have to read like 4 years of Jonathan Hickman to truly understand that.
Well, to understand the nuances, yes.
Yeah.
But the concept of Secret Wars is that everything ended and restarted with that. So you could just jump in at Secret Wars and see the kind of fun what-if worlds and see how it loosely ties together. If you read all the Avengers, you're right. You'll have like so much more knowledge.
That's right.
Right.
I went into a backwards rabbit hole trying to catch up for Secret Wars, and I had to quit. I was like, yeah, so you got to do the Avengers. Don't forget the Fantastic Four, and then also don't forget FF. And now I'm okay. Stop. And then I went.
See, that's good that you stop, because I don't, and now I have like this library.
Yeah, that's right.
Shit.
That's right.
Well, that's what I do, and I don't like the comment stuff like that. Where everyone's like, well, you got to read these 5 years to get to here.
That's right.
A good event will let you jump in.
Yeah.
If it's a bad event, it requires 5 years to catch up. Now, that doesn't say having the knowledge that I have or you have, Judah, where we know it all. That doesn't add to the story. Of course it does. That's right. I know how meaningful Dr. Doom talking to Reed and everyone is and why that happens. But you should be able to just jump in and read that story. Marvel, I feel like, has this bad habit of doing that, where they're like, all right, King in Black. So did you read Venom 1 through 30 and all of the Web of Venom and Absolute Carnage? Because if you didn't, you might be a little lost.
Yeah.
Totally makes it hard to bring friends in, because like I have friends who I know would love this shit but it's just so off-putting that they have to do all this reading just to understand the beginning of the story. So
yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
That's
And that's why I like a lot of what Donny Cates is doing right now, because I keep bringing up King in Black, but he does a really good job of just making the moment epic. Like, I don't really know why Venom's got an axe and he's, coming out of hell, but this comic's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't care about the background. I just need that axe.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of a little bit harder question than that. Do you have a single issue that you think is the best, your favorite one comic?
See, I really wish I could tell you something from like the 90s or the 2000s, but the problem is I don't remember single issues I read back then. Most of them got thrown to the side, and I remember the stories I read.
Yeah.
In the recent years, the most single issue I read, it's a Spider-Man issue by Tom Taylor. And it involves this character called Spider-Bite that he created. And it's Spider-Man's sidekick. And it kind of goes in the level for me like the Deadpool talking to the girl who wants to jump off the ledge issue. Because the story is about his sidekick and how his sidekick defeats all of these villains. And you're just like, wow, Tom Taylor made a Mary Sue sidekick. But it turns out the whole thing's in the kid's head. He's actually a cancer patient, and this was his Make-A-Wish. And him and Spider-Man are playing with action figures.
Is he sitting at the end? Is he sitting on the edge of a building like on a skyrise with this kid? I know exactly. I know what you're talking about. That was
good.
that's a
hits you in the feels.
Sure. Yeah.
I remember reading that and getting just oddly irate. Like, what is with this kid? He's just saving Spider-Man.
That's
he's
right.
just doing whatever. And then you see the reveal, and I'm like, I'm far less angry.
Right. So, not counting yourself, obviously, what is your dream creative team, and what title do you want them to create? So, like,
Dream
Fantasyland.
team?
Fantasyland. You're the supreme editor of all comics, and you get to pick any creators you want, and you could put them on any existing title that you want.
I
what
would
that
want to
look like?
see. The easy answer is like Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo continuing Batman. So I'm not going to give you that one. I just want to see them come back and do it again. I'm going to say Jim Zub, because I like his back and forth with characters and stuff like that. And Dexter Soy, who did the art for Red Hood for a long time. He does amazing art. I'd love to see the two of them team up for like a Deadpool book. The way Jim Zub writes his characters, I think it'd be hilarious with him with Deadpool. And then just that crazy action art of Dexter Soy.
Okay, great.
Okay,
great
that would be dope. I feel like a lot of my dream teams are actually going to be happening with future Bad Idea releases. I don't know if you're following a Bad Idea or anything like that.
Oh, I'm trying to. They're intentionally making it difficult. And then they were supposed to send me one of the issues, and they're like, "Did you get it?" I'm like, "No." They're like, distribution problems. Like, yeah,
right.
Everything seems like a bad idea.
It does.
We actually just had Dinesh on the show, and he talks a little bit about that. But
there's a method to the madness.
There is a method. I thought it was all marketing, and then he kind of like, wow. Anyways, okay. So last question here. What do you think in the world of superhero comics? What do you think superhero comics need less of, and then what do you think they need more of as subject matter expert?
Okay, that's a really good question too. I think what they need less of is the same story. I complain a lot about because DC does it the most obvious, but it happens a ton in Marvel as well. X-23, I'll use that as an example instead of Damien, because I always use Aunt Robin as my example. But X-23 went from X-23 to just being a young X-Men to being Wolverine. And I was like, this is great. She's finally evolving. She's aging. She's moving forward. And then they're like, she's X-23. Why? Because we're bringing back Wolverine and we're not giving you a reason. Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm tired of story like that. Nothing gets to progress in comics anymore. And
they have a status quo that they always return to, no matter what.
Always. I was just having I wouldn't say an argument, but somebody asked me, why can't Superman be black? That was the question they asked, based on the J.J. Abrams rumors and the Michael B. Jordan rumors. And I said he definitively can be black, and you could tell good stories, you could tell bad stories with that. The problem is 3 to 4 years in, he's going to be white again. He's going to go straight back, and there will be zero reason for it.
Yeah.
DC literally just did that with Wally West. They made him black. They got to the point where they're like, all right, everyone wants white Wally back. That's Wallace now. Like,
that's right. That's right.
And that's the problem I have with comics. We always get back to the status quo in 5 years. It's also why when everyone is freaking out about Marvel now having all these teenage superheroes, I'm like, none of you obviously read comics because I give this 2 years. Like,
That's right. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yep.
I mean, most people just want a reason to be mad about something, and then
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
that's right. That's right. What?
I'd like to see more. Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just to kind of follow up with that, the thing I'd like to see more of is conclusions. Like, I know everyone gives DC crap for crises, but at least a crisis gives us an ending.
It wraps
right.
up an era.
It wraps up an era, good or bad. It wraps it up.
That's
So
right.
you're like, all right, we're done. I can move on.
If you started Avengers Disassembled and go all the way to 2015 Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, I believe that tells a complete story.
Yeah, no, it definitely
Sort of.
does, about the team all getting to that point, and then we hit that reset button and everything. I mean, then Miles has moved over. His parents are back. Like, oh, so all the character growth is out the window again. Cool.
Mm. That makes a lot of sense. So going back to like the race and all that stuff, one thing that I am curious on, and you can give me your opinion, is the MCU and Sam Wilson being Captain America. And one of the things is we're talking about is like, okay, so Sam Wilson is Captain America now. There's the finale, and boom.
And the name change everything. So if anybody was even questioning it,
Yeah,
like, no,
yep.
Captain America.
He is.
That's Black
100%.
Falcon.
Yeah.
No, that's Captain
Nope.
America.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. That's
I
great.
feel like that was the smartest move too, because if they didn't do that, you would have the detractors be like, no. That's just Black Falcon in a Captain America suit. He's not
Yep.
Captain America.
Yeah.
John Walker's my Captain America.
They
you know?
left no room. They left no room for doubt.
Well, here's
Yeah,
the thing.
that's
Do you
they
think-
left no room at all.
Do you think they're gonna stick with it? Like, it's MCU's Captain America, Sam Wilson.
I do think they're doing, and
Okay.
I am excited for this because the comics did it crappily. I was just talking to my buddies about this. We were like, because we debate what's going on the channel, and I'm like, so I remember the Sam Wilson run, and I remember him giving the shield back in Pleasant Hill. What happened between getting it and giving it back? Because I don't
That's
remember.
right.
And we looked into it, and mostly his book was just him dealing with being Black Captain America, but there was like
Sure.
no through line other than Pleasant Hill. That was pretty much the only Captain America central thing that happened, that he discovered Pleasant Hill. Everything else was him on the Avengers or on this other team or doing this other thing. So I'm
There's this
excited.
one right here.
Yeah, that's
That
what I
was-
mean. And that all that is one-off stories. And he talks to the Whistler or Whisperer. It's just Rick Jones.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like one-offs from various titles. Like in this trade, there's not like a really much of a consistent arc.
No, he goes off,
Yeah.
he fights a villain. Somebody yells at him for being a Black Captain America. He deals with that. He goes back. Oh, the Whistler gave us a new lead. Okay, what's next? You know, nothing really happened.
They
So
blew
I'm
it.
excited
They-
for MCU because there's no way they're just going to leave it like this. We're not going to get Captain America 4. And he's like, well, Steve's back.
Just ancient
especially
Steve.
especially after that ending, right?
Yeah.
Until like, wow, no, Captain America. Fast forward 1 year, like, just kidding. Go back to being the Falcon. Like it was like,
Yeah,
all
well,
right.
that's just it. Because that's what they did in the comics. Like,
That's right.
Steve's young again. Here's the shield. Then we discover he's Hydra. That was a whole nother thing. But
That's right. That's right. By the way,
I like to think they wouldn't. I like to think they wouldn't be that stupid to do that, but
You'd
you
like
just
to
never
think.
know.
You'd like
yeah,
to
well, Kevin Feige, I think, has been pretty smart about keeping things moving.
100%.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that there's a plan for this more than the shock value of getting we got Black Captain America. You know,
Yeah,
like-
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The whole. There's a lot of things he didn't shy away from, which I personally was really
I think
happy about.
I think season 2 is going to be called Cap and Bucky. I think that would be dope if they continue with those characters, but they call it Cap and Bucky.
well, supposedly there is no season 2 of this
Yeah.
or WandaVision.
Yeah.
Cap 4 is where it's going. But it'd be cool if it was Cap 4, Cap and Bucky.
It'd be dope.
Cap, Bucky, and Zemo go on a road trip.
All right, ladies and gentlemen and NBs, that is our show. Benny Potter, the Comicstorian, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a little bit of your time. But before you leave, you got a message for one of our admins, Michael Malone?
Yes, Michael Malone. Thank you so much for giving me your support for all these years, and I hear that you're having a hard time. I hope that you recover very soon and get well. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies.
That is awesome.
I used to try and see how fast I could say it, and then people complained.
Awesome. All right. So that's the end of the show. Thank you so much. Don't forget to wash your hands, wear your mask, and go get fucking vaccinated. We are out.
If you want to hear interviews from industry pros, get first looks, and have access to endless comic content, wake up. Please wake up. You're in a coma. Your mother misses you.